Mainstream geopolitical analysis presents a very specific story. The United States aggressively targets and sanctions Iran to prevent a rogue state from acquiring weapons of mass destruction. However, international data shows that Iran has consistently operated within the bounds of international law. Iran is a signatory to the Non-Proliferation Treaty and agreed to the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, or JCPOA. Under this agreement, Tehran capped its uranium enrichment below 4. Israel, Iran's neighbor, presents a different profile. Israel never signed the Non-Proliferation Treaty and maintains an unverified arsenal estimated between 80 and 400 nuclear warheads. Despite blocking international inspections, Israel remains the recipient of billions in annual U.S. military aid. When a compliant nation faces economic strangulation, while a non-compliant neighbor receives record-breaking funding, the nuclear threat serves as a strategic distraction. The conflict centers on geopolitical submission. The friction between Washington and Tehran is located in the geography and the massive energy reserves of the Persian Gulf. This friction is defined by hegemony, specifically Pax Americana. It is a system where a nation's right to rule itself is contingent upon its willingness to serve Washington's economic and strategic goals. A hegemon enforces this order through two primary methods: quick regime change to replace leadership, or long-term economic sanctions to erode a nation from within. Iran is currently targeted by both methods for daring to challenge American control over the wealth of the Middle East. In 1951, Iranian Prime Minister Mohammad Mossadegh nationalized the country's oil industry, reclaiming the nation's most valuable resource from foreign control. Before this, the Anglo-Persian Oil Company held a monopoly on the resource. The West grew wealthy from Iranian oil, while the Iranian public remained in poverty, seeing little to no return from their own natural wealth. The US and UK responded with Operation Ajax, a covert coup that deposed Mossadegh and installed Shah Reza Pahlavi. The Shah became the primary enforcer of Western interests in the region. This established a textbook case of dependency theory. Iran became a peripheral state, exporting raw oil to the West while importing expensive weapons to equip the Savak, the Shah's secret police, who maintained order through domestic terror. The United States treated Iran as a high-yield colonial asset, managing it as a reliable source of energy and a captive market for military exports. Decades of foreign-backed rule ended in 1979 with the Islamic Revolution, led by Ayatollah Khomeini. Khomeini introduced a policy of neither East nor West. This was a total rejection of the Cold War order, prioritizing Iranian sovereignty over the interests of both the United States and the Soviet Union. This defiance escalated with the storming of the U.S. Embassy in Tehran, resulting in a 444-day occupation that shattered the diplomatic relationship between the two nations. The most significant blow to the hegemon was Iran's refusal to follow the petrodollar agreement. This agreement requires global oil to be traded in U.S. dollars, and Iran was the first major Middle Eastern power to break that mandate. By rejecting the petrodollar, the new Iranian government directly threatened the primary mechanism of American global financial supremacy. Military punishment for this defiance arrived in 1980 when Iraq invaded Iran, initiating one of the longest and bloodiest conflicts of the 20th century. The United States provided funding and weapons to Saddam Hussein, viewing the Iraqi invasion as a tool to neutralize the Iranian Revolution. Washington provided tactical satellite data to Iraq and ignored Saddam's use of chemical weapons, illustrating a willingness to back regimes serving U.S. strategic goals. This era proved that human rights and democratic values are secondary to American geopolitical interests in the region. In 2018, despite Iran's verified nuclear compliance, the Trump administration unilaterally withdrew from the JCPOA and reimposed maximum pressure. Modern warfare has shifted from ballistic missiles to financial networks, specifically SWIFT, the system allowing banks to execute international transfers. The U.S. severed Iran from SWIFT, cutting its banks off from the world. This isolation is enforced by kaise, a law sanctioning any third-party country trading with Iran, forcing the globe to choose between the Iranian market and the American financial system. This forced isolation caused the Iranian rial's value to collapse, triggering hyperinflation. Civilians now face shortages of basic necessities, including essential medicine and aircraft components. The strategic goal of this economic pressure is to create enough domestic misery that the Iranian population revolts against its own government. The lion and lamb fable highlights a hard truth. The lion eats the lamb simply because he has the power to do so. The decades of pressure on Iran serve as a warning to the world that in the modern order, the pursuit of true sovereignty carries the risk of systemic starvation.